Do you like your new job? The pilot asked me. To be honest, I loved my job at the laboratories, I replied. But it is nice to finally sit in the spaceships I've spent so long working on. My name is Robert Dykman. I am a scientist. By the time I turned 30, I had designed and tested spaceships on 3 different planets of our galaxy. This was the first time I actually worked as a co-pilot on a mission. Admittedly, I was a little nervous, but I was grateful to be part of one of the most exciting types of jobs. I was on an exploratory ship with Captain Ramon Bravo. The ship was one of our best models. Practical, incredibly fast, surprisingly resourceful for its size. And the captain, well, it was an honor to work with him. Plus, he adored his job. Actually going out and exploring the universe around us is an underappreciated task nowadays, he told me with a nostalgic tone. Well, I shyly added, most things we'll see were already noticed by our satellites, Captain. He shook his head with amusement and toyed a little with the controllers in front of us. Satellites can't do everything. They only notice the things that they are programmed to notice. Right? Wouldn't you like to be surprised? His last word was accentuated by a frown on his face and a red light starting to blink on our panels. Are you trying to scare me? I chuckled. I had designed ships like this one. I knew how scary a red light could be. It's not me. Ramon shook his head. Take a look. Our radar just stopped working. Radars can't stop working, I nervously retorted. That would leave us stranded in the middle of nowhere. Hopeless and helpless, and with only a few hours to... Robert. The captain said my name firmly to shake me down from my panic. Focus. You know what you're doing. Look, the radars appear to be alright, but they just refuse to show what's ahead of us. I leaned forward to take a closer look, and he was right. The ship's radar were completely functional, showing everything around us, except what was way ahead. It looked like a clear circle with the top just sliced off. There was nothing there. Maybe it's clashing with the satellite signal, Ramon wondered. But I shook my head. No, look, we left the last satellites behind a while ago. This means we're really in unexplored territory. And the territory apparently doesn't want to be explored, Ramon whispered. Carefully, he made our ship move forward slowly, getting closer and closer to the source of the mysterious effect on our radar. But we couldn't see anything. Movement, warmth, radio signals, depths. All our signals got cut off on that spot. It wasn't even blurry or a spot in the radars. It was a clean line slashing through our screens. It was a wall. A wall? I mumbled and repeated myself so my partner could hear me. A wall. It's like there's a wall blocking our path. Ramon laughed. It's space, Robert, he said. But I noticed the tension on his brow. There can't be walls. I don't see anything blocking. I don't see anything there. It's space as I've always seen it. Could it be a new type of matter? Something we can't notice. I wondered why I frantically tinkered with our controllers, trying to get as much information as possible. I can't tell how far this barrier goes or how long it is. I can't figure out anything about it. There's nothing there, the captain insisted. There can't be. You said it yourself. Our satellites have seen it all. Not all. Not this far, I replied. Bullshit, he barked. What are you suggesting? That this is the end of the universe? Come on. He laughed bitterly. I could tell that the uncertainty and lack of explanation were driving him a little mad. He started moving the ship again. A little faster, a little less carefully, and his movements were jerky and less precise. Ramon, Captain, please calm down. I tried to soothe him and slow down the ship, but it was useless. We reached the barrier and we crashed. Lightly thanks to me pulling the brakes and the captain's quick reflexes despite his state of mind. But the fact remains, we had just crashed against an invisible wall. Our eyes weren't lying. After the front of our ship touched the invisible barrier, What we were seeing was an endless space blinked and blurred for a couple of seconds before steadying again. It wasn't space at all. It seemed to be some sort of projection, an image put over a physical obstacle on our path. Incredible, I said, astonished. Impossible, the captain cried out. Our ship took the impact well. Despite our lights blinking and the alarms going off, nothing appeared damaged. Well, besides our conception of the universe. There was a long, intense pause where we both got lost in our troubled thoughts. But finally, the captain asked me, "Do you think... if this was a secret, they wouldn't have sent us both here, right?" I perfectly understood his point. No. I shook my head. I have a feeling we are the only two people aware of the existence of this wall. I started breathing heavily. I was panicking again, but this time the captain made no effort to stop me from rapidly darkening my thoughts. I also have a feeling that this wall was fabricated. It is not a natural presence. Someone or something outside of all norms of regulations created this. I know that you and I are completely alone. The nearest satellites might catch a distress signal, but it'll be too long before any sort of rescue could find us. We have absolutely no way of knowing what this wall is, why it's here, what's on the other side, and who or what put it there. My heart was beating out of my chest. My hands were shaking. I was sweating. I felt on the verge of a precipice. This was worse than a black hole. Still, Ramon caught the way I was holding something back. "But," he tentatively prompted me, "but I'm dying to figure out all those answers," I whispered. At first, he looked horrified by the mere suggestion. I couldn't blame him. I looked like I was seconds away from fainting. But I was a scientist that had literally just crashed against an impossible obstacle. The only thing on my mind was this invisible wall. Countless hypotheses, and a desperate need to get to the other side of this problem. Metaphorically, and quite literally too. The captain started moving the ship backward and away from the wall. "You are mad," he told me. "You have absolutely lost your mind. We are lost alone in space, facing something unreasonable, impossible, unimaginable. And you want..." He trailed off, thought about it for a second, and prepared the attack systems of the ship. "Do you want to try something?" His question definitely intrigued me. We barely thought twice about it. In a matter of seconds, we shot 3 quick blasts at the barrier. Once again, the image of the endless space blinked, ruining the illusion before restoring itself. I heard the captain groan in frustrations before we started shooting again. Our projectiles did little to no damage to the wall. But after a minute of this, the captain stopped so we could see the results. After the image steadied again, it wasn't the same. There were gray spots all over, like a ruined screen, some cracks here and there. The illusion was over. The wall wasn't invisible anymore. It was obvious. But the most obvious part, the thing that made both of us gasp in terror, were the words. "Desist!" The words appeared in giant red letters over the surface of the wall. They were so big the red light covered our entire ship. The letters were there for a second at most, but still, it was beyond ominous and it took our breath away. This was enough to make me lose my mind. The repercussions of that combination of letters was unmeasurable. This unthinkable wall in the middle of nowhere had just communicated with us. In English, signaling not only intelligent life behind it, but Creator's knowledge of who and what we were. I couldn't resist. I took over the controls, fired up the ship's engines, and drove it forward, as fast as it could go in that short distance. This time, the crash against the wall made our entire cabin shake. The lights flickered. The alarm started to ring loudly. Warning lights lit up all over the controls. Damage was done to our ship, but to the wall as well. There was a noticeable dent on the surface that made me grin. "Are you crazy?" Ramon asked me when he recovered from the shock. "You could have killed us. This thing could explode or attack us." "Or what else?" I asked him. My partner frowned. or send another message, or open up, eat us, make us disappear, or not, he mumbled. His expression grew thoughtful, and when he looked me in the eyes, I noticed they were sparkling with curiosity. Or something could come out. I whispered back at him. Someone, people, monsters, hallucinations, planets, aliens, anything at all. The captain looked disturbed, and I had never been as scared or as excited as I was at that moment. We couldn't keep talking though. The dent I had caused on the wall started to tremble, and then one by one, little pieces of the wall started to fall off. They floated away in space slowly, weightless. Ramon and I watched marveled as the barrier broke down in front of us. We couldn't utter a word. By the time fear started to overpower all of our other feelings, it was way too late. At first, it looked like beyond the wall there was only empty space with stars in the distance. But the stars started to blink, and multiply, and move. And those were the eyes watching us. Dozens, hundreds of them. Bright as stars, but soulless and undoubtedly not human. We couldn't see anything else. Planets, other constructions. One more word. There was nothing but those unblinking eyes staring at us from every angle. As the hole on the barrier continued to grow, the eyes started to move away, as if opening space for us. The captain glanced at me, and almost imperceptibly, I shook my head. It took us way too long, but we had finally regained what had remained of our senses and reason. There are limits you aren't meant to cross, even in the endless expanse of outer space. Ramon moved slowly, placed his hands on the controllers, and tried to move the ship backward. The damaged engines protested, and warning signs lit up on our entire cabin, but the ship moved, for a moment at least. Because a second later, everything stopped, and then the ship started moving forward. Ramon scrambled to get the controls to do as he demanded, and from the co-pilot's seat, I imitated his movements desperately. The engines roared, but they were helpless. The ship wasn't moving on its own accord. We were being dragged forward. An invisible force was attracting our entire ship, closer and closer to the wall, until we were crossing it. We had no idea what we were entering. We knew nothing but its deep darkness and fortress we had just ruined. When our ship was fully on the other side of the wall, we stared at the screen showing us the space behind us, and we watched with tears in our eyes the way the wall rebuilt itself, locking us inside.